have the Ayatollah of fantasy rock and roller with us today, Adam Rank. How you doing, Rank?
They look great in person, and I just can't wait to next year where we can pack it full of 25,000.
Hey, Bob, how you doing?
Hey, I'm doing great. I didn't know it was Ball Guys Day. It was being ranked. I mean, how do you lose?
This is the Dynasty Vipers Vipercast.
Hello there, and welcome to the Dynasty Vipers Vipercast, episode 179, presented by the Fantasy Points Media Group. As always, I am joined by Major Caldwell IV and Tara Roberts, and on today's show, we are looking at the FantasyPoints.com staff mock draft for the 2023 NFL Draft. We will be breaking down all the skill selections and what it means for fantasy football. Major, Tara, how y'all doing tonight?
I am doing wonderful. Better now that I'm with you guys.
Aww, heart emojis and all that stuff. Yeah, I'm good.
Major, how you doing? Did you eat
good,
lunch?
man.
Did you eat supper before the show this week? Or are we going to
I
have
did
like
not.
halfway through the show hunger strike?
Yeah, and you know what? It's bad too because I went for like a 3-mile walk and now I'm like thirsty and hungry. So let's make this a nice, tight, concise. let's make it like let's make it tight.
Well, that's not happening. We can promise it. We can put that out there.
I think
We can
Tara
try our
can
best.
probably do it. I'm
can
talking
do
to
it.
you, my friend. I'm talking to you.
That is absolutely correct, actually. I'm not the only person that I can do it like an hour-long solo show talking to me and my voices in my head for an entire 60 minutes the entire time. So I had an opportunity to do a couple solo shows here the last couple of weeks and whatnot. And I entirely admit I am the problem when it comes to talking on this show. So that being said, when we get into the mock draft, we are going to focus on one person, one player, and hopefully I'll keep my own opinions to myself on those selections until it's my time to speak. But before we get into that, we have to hit the news and notes because as we're heading to the NFL draft, we got all kinds of information that is heading our way, such as Major Lamar Jackson. Not only does he got OBJ, but he wants Nuke to come to town too, and then he'll talk to management. What are your thoughts on this?
I say leverage your talent to do whatever you're going to do because they will do it to you as soon as it's their turn. So hopefully he signs there and they give him everything he wants and he can really, show people what he can do because I don't think he's ever had a opportunity to show his passing ability because his receivers always been young. I actually like the receivers, but they've always been young. They've always been unseasoned. So to have a couple vets like that, to work with you and have that tight end and have that running back, I don't know. Baltimore might be looking pretty good this season if that all works out.
Well, we've always talked about Baltimore not being willing to spend at the wide receiver position. Up until Odell Beckham Jr. coming into town, Sammy Watkins was the guy who got the biggest bag for the team. Nelson Aguilar just got a deal. Marquise Hollywood Brown and Rashad Bateman were on rookie deals. And then Seth Roberts was the other big acquisition way back when. But if we're going to talk money, we're going to talk about quarterbacks getting paid. How about Jalen Hurts, Tara, getting that 5-year, $255 million, $179 million guaranteed, becoming the highest paid player in the NFL history and beating the rush on Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, Justin Herbert, and resetting that market. And after that, Tara, the Ravens have reportedly gone, hey, whoa. We're going to offer Lamar Jackson a deal that includes $200 million guaranteed because Jalen Hurts is only going to be the richest until the next deal comes up.
All right.
Yeah, it's funny how that works with quarterbacks. You just keep on, trumping and trumping.
How it used to work.
Yeah.
That's how it used to work.
It's, congrats to my man, Jalen. Well deserved. I mean, he earned every bit of this. When you look at the way that his path, the way that he transitioned in the NFL, taking the team to a Super Bowl and being this close, so close to achieving it. Arguably should have been MVP. I mean, just fantastic season. Well deserved. So yeah, and good for Philadelphia. This is what you want to do. Get in there sign, extend as soon as you can, because you don't want to be last to the party and having to one up all these guys. So now all these other teams, we know Burrow's going to get a bigger contract. You know, that's going to happen. Cincinnati has to do it now. You don't have an option not to go. You've got your baseline now, and you got to go higher. Justin Herbert, Lamar, the deal. I mean, I get why he doesn't want the deal, because when you look at the guarantees, it's kind of shaky in terms of where it's actually being guaranteed. But hopefully Lamar can get his as well.
Yeah, and that's what we've seen throughout the history here of the National Football League and the quarterback market. Everyone's getting paid. In 2 to 3 years, this is going to look like a fantastic deal for the Philadelphia Eagles.
Right. Think about
Now,
Trevor Lawrence deal that's coming down the pipeline.
Well, it's coming. They're all coming. I mean, these
Get
guys
in
are
there,
all going to get
extend
paid.
them.
And expect we're going to continue to talk about finances here, because Allen Robinson, he was traded to the Steelers by the Rams, and all they did was swap 7th round picks, and the Rams are actually going to pick up $10.25 million, while the Steelers are getting Robinson essentially for $5 million a season. Now this becomes interesting because we've got George Pickens, we got Deontay Johnson there in Pittsburgh. That means the wide receiver 3 battle is going to come down to Allen Robinson and Calvin Austin, who I'm actually kind of liking a little bit more than Allen Robinson this season. I mean,
What?
I think Allen Robinson might be done.
But I remember Allen used to be your guy. Remember that?
It was. And
He's-
Terry's a big fan of him too.
Where'd we get that from? No, no, he's done. He's done for sure. I don't even think the wide receiver 3 position comes down to anyone that's on the roster right now. They're going to draft a receiver, and that person's going to be the wide receiver 3. It's Pittsburgh.
I think all that this move did was take a wide receiver off the board in the first round for Pittsburgh. I think Pittsburgh may have been considering maybe a wide receiver, but they're like, hey, you know what? We got some other areas that we need to address here. We know we got to go cornerback. We could really use a cornerback here. So the addition of Allen Robinson essentially basically says to Pittsburgh that we're going to go corner or some other position in the first round, but we're going to address this wide receiver position probably later on, second, maybe the third, somewhere along in day number 2. More than likely, and then probably again adding another wide receiver in day number 3. So for me, I want Allen Robinson to be something. I really do. I really want Allen Robinson to be something. In fact, I was high on him last season going to the Rams, and I'll admit that. Boy, did I miss that one. I misread that situation.
That Rams situation, like that whole offense was a disaster. So like, that's why I still think he has some juice, because that offense, who balled in that offense? No, the Cooper got hurt, quarterback got hurt, everyone got hurt. That's what really happened. So I don't think he really had an opportunity to show, what he still has. He might not be the old Allen Robinson we all loved, but I think he still got some juice to beat out a third, to be a wide receiver 3 on the Steelers. Like, come on.
Well, let's agree to disagree. He'll be lucky to be battling Gunner for that wide receiver 4 position once it's said and done. Now, Major, as our token running back here on the show, is Dalvin Cook. See what I did there? And is he we're hearing rumors that he's going to be cut or traded ahead of the deadline. And considering that he's basically owed like $15 million and $13 million the next 2 seasons, I don't think traded is going to be an option here. If he does get traded, where do you see him go? If he's cut, where do you see him go?
For sure, he's going to get cut, because the NFL just don't appreciate running backs like they should. So even someone of his caliber, he probably has too many miles on him to actually trade for him. So especially with this rookie class coming in, you got some pretty good rookies out there, and you have 3 or 4 veteran running backs still in the market already with Zeke and who's the other 2? Help me out.
Leonard Fournette
and Hunt and what's his name? Hunt?
Fournette.
Yeah, Kareem Hunt, Fournette and Hunt. So you have some talented guys there as well. And like, you need another party to dance with if you're gonna do a trade. So he's gonna get cut, and I have no idea where he can go or where he should go. I want Miami to get like a solid running back just to like fill that thing out, but I don't know. Like, everyone seems like they have their running back, and all the teams who don't have their running back, they're all going young. So this mark is not looking good for the veteran running backs.
I think the problem was that the Vikings actually overvalued Dalvin Cook at one point, and now probably priced him out of any kind of trade market moving forward. I think that's kind of the problem there. They actually held him in high regards, and then they just gave Alexander Madison $6.25 million guaranteed here just a couple weeks ago, which basically spelled the end of Dalvin Cook in my opinion, in Minnesota. We've seen what Minnesota's done recently with the release of Adam Thielen, trying to create some room. Maybe they're in the market for maybe a big-time quarterback, maybe a Trey Lance for Kirk Cousins type deal. I don't know. More on that maybe a little bit later. Probably not. Oh, wait, Tara. Brock Purdy, he's on schedule maybe to start week number 1. We've heard rumors that he is. We've heard rumors that he isn't. We've also heard that Trey Lance is probably going to get dealt because the 49ers are doing their due diligence and taking trade calls. They're not going out there seeking a trade, but they're listening in on people looking to acquire Trey Lance who believe that Brock Purdy is going to be the guy. Do you believe Purdy's going to be the guy there in San Francisco? And do you see Trey Lance being dealt?
I do believe that Purdy is the theoretical leader. I don't believe that he will be healthy. We'll see. I don't think that we can take any. I mean, it's San Francisco. I don't think that we can really take any stock into timelines right here until we have some kind of clear medical. This is the exact timeline for him, and this is his progress. So, with that said, I don't know if they will deal Lance unless they get an outrageously good deal. Because right now, you look at them and the history that they've had, they know the value of having rolling 3 deep at quarterback. So unless they get something, I don't know if he's going to be dealt. I do believe that Purdy is the leader.
I think that Shanahan should just trade him to the New England Patriots, get Mac Jones like he wanted in the first place, and call it a day.
Why would you want Mac Jones?
That was his guy, man. That's who
it would be a show if Matt didn't talk about Mac Jones.
He already has his Matt Jones, though. Like, Brock Purdy is a Matt Jones, so
don't talk about Purdy that way. That's this rude.
All he wanted was like no, because he's one of those coaches. Like those superstar coaches, they don't want like someone who has the best arm talent and the best speed, and they want the guy that's like the project, so they can be like, look what I did. Like, I built this Tom Brady. You get what I'm saying? So that's what he's doing. He doesn't want Trey because Trey looks too good on paper.
Well, speaking of looking good on paper, the Carolina Panthers are one of those teams that are really heavy into the analytics, and there's certain analytics that they value higher than others. And one quarterback that's hitting all those metrics is Bryce Young. Now, rumor is that Bryce Young has basically canceled all his other pre-draft visits. So does this mean that the Carolina Panthers have said to Bryce Young there that you are our guy? I'm not too 100% sold on this. Maybe it's to stir up a little bit of something here between Houston, maybe Arizona, seeing maybe we can get those Houston Texans to kind of move up, because we know Houston really wants Bryce Young. I really believe for Houston, it's Young or bust at this point. So I think if Bryce Young goes number 1, that's going to create a pretty interesting trickle-down effect there when it comes to that pick number 2. And Houston potentially looking at the defensive side of the ball at that point, or maybe they make a trade back and go, you know what, we're going to go for Caleb Williams next season. I don't know if that's the case there, but if DeMeco Ryans, who's coming there, can't find his quarterback, if Bryce Young's his quarterback that he believes in, if they can't trade up to get him, do you want to settle, in their opinion, for another quarterback? If you already had your mind set on one guy, and maybe, like I said, Caleb Williams is that guy next season. So that's where this draft is going to get really interesting. I really do believe that Carolina is kind of still split on Young. I think management wants Young. I think Frank Reich, he wants to go with the Ohio State quarterback there, CJ Stroud. I believe that is where he wants to go. So I don't think that's quite settled. They're going to wait the rest of the week, talk things out. I don't think that's 100% settled, but I think Young understands he's going in the top 2 picks, one way or the other. That all being said, we're going to talk about this draft because our friends over at Fantasy Points, they put together their staff mock draft led by Brett Woodfield, who did that 2023 NFL Draft Prospect Guide that you can get over there for free. Hey, anything free is worth saving up for, and we're going to break this down for free. We had some of the great minds there, including Whitfield, John Hanson, Scott Baird, Joe Dolan, Graham Barfield, Chris Weck, and Jake Tribby, all contributing to this mock draft exercise. We're going to focus on the offensive side of the ball, where the fantasy points are made. And at number 101, the Carolina Panthers, they selected Major
CJ Stroud.
Stroud.
Yeah.
Not Stroud. Now you're starting to sound like me too much with that Canadian accent going Stroud. It's
whatever,
Stroud.
dude.
I think
Young
more often than
CJ.
any man
Wait,
should
hold
be-
on. How's it a Canadian gonna tell me how to speak English? What is going on right now? What's going on?
Hey, we were so good at speaking English, we started mastering French too, okay?
Oh, shut up.
So I
That's
can
pretty
talk
good,
about
though.
Brees Young next.
Yeah, the Brees Young. No, but I think CJ actually won the off season. He won the what do you call it, the underwear Olympics? I think by default, because Bryce didn't really participate that much there. But to me, he checks the most boxes. He's, the size, the height, the weight, the arm, you know. The Ohio State quarterback thing has been scary a little bit in the league for the past what forever. And
For a long, long time. I
yeah,
think the
so
official word is they've never had a Pro Bowl quarterback selected.
right.
In fact, the only quarterback that ever played at Ohio State that made the Pro Bowl made it as a kicker.
Wow, I did not know that. That's a great stat. I love that. Yeah, so that's the one thing that's kind of scary. But to me, on paper, Bryce is just a little too short. We've seen what's going on with the other short quarterbacks in the league right now. So I don't know. I think to me, that's the safest bet. If the way the draft goes, you have to go quarterback at 1-1 for some reason. I don't know why, but well, I guess because the team's always the worst one, right? Yeah, but I think that's the safest bet. I know Bryce has that potential and everything, but I don't know. That 1-1 can set you back a few years, so you have to try to get it right.
And I feel like this is going to be one of those things where Carolina's still debating because they're a very analytical driven team. Frank Reich wants to get his guy that's going to solve a lot of things. Bryce Young has some size questions. Anthony Richardson has some rawness kind of concerns. And Stroud fits what Carolina wants to do. And they put the pieces in place to have success early on. Now, at 102, the Houston Texans get Bryce Young dropping right into their lap. And guess what? Back when we did our mock draft, this is exactly how we started off. So, Tara, when we talk about the Houston Texans and Bryce Young, how do you feel about this?
I love Bryce Young. I mean, this is a great, hey, well, can I say Houston's a great landing spot? But it's a fine landing spot. But I truly do think that he's going to go at the 101. I think that, all the teams are kind of, they're not wanting to be aggressively committed. I think we've seen in the past where you get these situations like, go back to the Trey Lance and Zach Wilson and all of that nonsense of the way that they were so aggressively committed to certain quarterbacks. It just doesn't end up well. So you keep your options open, but I do think that Bryce Young's going to be the first pick overall because, he is the best quarterback in the draft. And I know that he's a shorty, but by no means does that mean, yeah, he's a shorty, but I like the shorties. By no means does that mean that he doesn't have the skill set to overcome that. I don't think that it's going to hinder him, and I don't think the weight is an issue either. Him being on the slimmer side as well. So when I look at Bryce Young, I see him as the complete package. I think he is a pretty safe bet. He has all the intangibles and the upside to have that, that Trevor Lawrence type of ceiling, honestly, where you look at this guy and he is the clear 101. So, if he goes to as the second overall pick to Houston, they got to steal because Houston, they clearly are very, very transparent. And maybe that's why Bryce Young is canceling the visits a little bit more because he knows for a fact that even if Carolina kind of wavers a little bit, he knows Houston wants them. So there really is no other point. They have not been shy about it. They're gung-ho on him. And if they can't have Bryce Young, they might not actually want to, go quarterback early. So it's a great fit for him. He would be, reconnecting with John Mechie, which I would love to see. So I like this pick for them.
And real quick though, I do agree with you everything you said about Bryce. I'm just saying, like, how the NFL is so like they're afraid to make a mistake, so they overanalyze things and are like, well, his height check, they do that game. So, but I agree with you on that.
What makes this interesting is I don't know how petty Nick Caserio is there in Houston. Maybe Terry, you can answer this a little bit where you're hearing about him, but you got to remember CJ Stroud is also represented by the same agent as one Deshaun Watson. So in a world in which this is where this all gets interesting. If Bryce Young goes 101 and Stroud is sitting there at 102, this is why there's potential talks about Houston. Maybe management's not fully in love with them. Maybe it's not about DeMeco Ryans at this point. Maybe it's management like, hey, we've been down this road. We know how this works a little bit. I mean, I don't think that would happen, but I mean, it's got to be on the table. It's got to be on the minds of those who make the decisions. Now, speaking of decisions in this draft, we saw the Detroit Lions move up from pick number 6 up to pick number 3 in a trade with the Arizona Cardinals. They gave up their 6th overall pick, a 2023 second-round pick, and a 2024 third-round pick to move up 3 spots to select Anthony Richardson. Listen, I love Richardson. I think he's the quarterback 1 of this class on potential. His ceiling is that his floor is that Konami Code ability. I mean, right there, you're getting that floor of the Konami Code type quarterback, but you're also getting a quarterback that is more than just his legs. He can make the throws. It's just he needs some time to develop and being able to make that first read in there and find out where that blitz is coming from, finding out where that pressure is coming from, because he took less than 400 career snaps there at Florida. He has a learning curve still ahead of him, but all the physical attributes, he checks every physical box you could possibly want. He's got the size. He's got the arm. You name it, he's got it. And he's got time in Detroit to sit behind Jared Goff for another season or so. So he doesn't have to be thrown right out there right away. And when he gets his time, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jameson Williams, they'll be peaking just in time for Anthony Richardson to have a huge career moving forward. So if this happens where the Detroit Lions can move up to 103, I think this is where a lot of teams can move up if they covet that third quarterback there, whether it's Will Levis or whether it's Anthony Richardson. This is the move. This is where the Cardinals are in the best spot possible, because sitting at 3, you're going to get a mobile quarterback falling there, plus Will Levis. Any way you want. Bryce Young drops, boom, he's there. CJ Stroud drops, boom, he's there. Anthony Richardson's there, boom. Arizona could come out of this looking pretty good and still be able to get their guy at pick number 6 in this scenario. So this is a win for the Arizona Cardinals, and this is a win for the Detroit Lions. Now, turning your attention to the next offensive player pick their major at 111, the Tennessee Titans will select Jackson Smith-Njigba. How are you feeling about pairing him with Treylon Burks in Tennessee?
I like it. That is going to be a really good offense. Shout out to Ohio State's wide receiver coach, man. What's his name? Brian Hartline, I think it is. He's had like number 1 receivers this last 2 or 3 years. You had Olave, you had Wilson, now you have Smith, Njigba. I'm messing up all the names today. And then you got Martin, you got Junior over there, next year coming out. So shout out to him for making Ohio State a wide receiver landing spot where these guys are just playmakers. Like anyone that comes out, they all kind of have the same frame. They all have about the same height. A lot of people talking about his 40 speed. I would not worry about that. His film is way faster than that 40 time. One of the best route runners, probably I like Addison too, but yeah, he's one of the best route runners in this draft. And I think with Tennessee, that's the only place you can really go if you're going offense. Because I'm not taking Will Levis, because I think Malik Willis is actually better than Will Levis at this point. So yeah, if you can't get one of those top 3 quarterbacks, you have to go with the best receiver, and I think that's JSN.
Well, if you're looking at the fantasy points breakdown here, Scott Barrett basically said Tennessee considered taking Will Levis here before remembering that Ryan Tannehill has been one of the most efficient quarterbacks in the league since he joined the team. So instead, they're going to get him some help there with JSN, and he's likely to spend some more time in the slot. Now, Brett Whitfield's analysis there furthers that if Tennessee decides to pass on quarterback, then JSN has to be the guy, and easily my favorite pick at this point of the mock. JSN immediately steps in as a target hog and elevates fellow wide receiver Treylon Burks. So I think that's one of those things that you can see some good things. Tennessee's going to be thinking about Will Levis there, but ultimately, when you look at what they could possibly build, Derrick Henry on the backside with these 2 stud wide receivers. And by the way, Treylon Burks would probably be right there with JSN if we're looking at him in this year's draft class. So they could have 2 top-end young wide receivers to possibly get that quarterback next year if they play their cards right as well. If you're not feeling Will Levis here because he puts mayonnaise in his coffee or eats banana with a peel on it, there's something wrong with that. There is something wrong with that. And I've got him way down my board.
You mention it every show. It's so funny.
Because at 114, Brett Whitfield goes off there and he drafts Will Levis for the New England Patriots with my guy there, McCorkle Jones. Now
That's the
we know
Spider-Man
there's some,
meme, right?
you know what? Pretty much, except Will Levis is like a freak of nature. I don't know if you've seen him without a shirt off there, Major, but it's been going around social media. The dude's cut.
Yeah,
I
I'm
don't know if
looking at
that's going to
dudes
help
with
him
their
throw the
shirts off,
ball.
Matt. I don't
You know what?
look at
I
dudes.
may join Will Levis next show. I may join Will Levis. Maybe
Oh.
we'll have like a sculpting off contest there.
I think I might be sick next week.
But saying that, I mean, all that muscles and all that stuff. Hey, it's all fancy. It's all good. It looks good on tape or on paper or whatever you want to look at it.
Right.
But does it help you throw the ball? Does it really help you throw the ball? Now, I know in Kentucky, there's some issues with the offensive line. There's obviously some issues with the pass catchers there the last couple seasons. But we know that Mac Jones has fallen out of favor with Bill Belichick and whoever's called. I mean, dude, you literally have like Joe Judge, who's a special teamer, couldn't do nothing in New York, and Matt Patricia, who's a defensive coordinator, calling offensive plays there in New England. What do you expect is going to happen to a quarterback when you have a defensive coordinator calling offensive plays? Take the damn pencil out of your ear and learn some offense. That's basically what it comes down to. Now, Brett Whitfield goes with the news of Mac Jones falling out of favor with the Patriots staff. We jump all over this opportunity to grab Levis immediately and move on. We know the Patriots had talks about trading Mac Jones all offseason. Maybe they're trying to right a wrong in New England, but Will Levis looks like it's going to be the pick there at 114, according to the Fantasy Points staff. Now, Tara, sorry. At 115, I skipped you here so I can give you the Green Bay Packers selection because they're not going to give Jordan Love a wide receiver in the first round. They're going to give him a tight end in the first round. I guess it's still technically a first-round pass catcher. How are you feeling about Michael Mayer coming from Notre Dame to Green Bay?
I don't think that they're going to make this pick, but we do need a tight end. And despite the fact that I actually think that Dalton Kincaid is the better fantasy tight end, when I'm looking at rookie drafts, I would prefer to take Dalton Kincaid when I'm looking at somebody who has the higher ceiling from a fantasy perspective. And, in terms of when I'm looking at other teams that might be looking to draft a tight end and how they would work into the offense, prefer Dalton Kincaid in that. But for Green Bay, if they were drafting a tight end here, I would not mind them taking Michael Mayer first. I say Michael Mayer first, because he actually his skill sets really fit into the Green Bay offense more. Again, when you look at the Green Bay offense, there's such a massive emphasis on blocking, where Dalton Kincaid might not be the best fit for that in Green Bay. So if Green Bay wants to go tight end in the first round, this is the guy that they do need to grab. So I don't mind this pick for them. When you're looking at him, obviously the knock on him, he's not a super athletic dude. He's not a speedster. He's not, when you're looking at he's not the Mike Gesicki kind of type of tight end. He's more of like more of a slow burner, bigger target kind of dude. And that's awesome. And it would fit well into Green Bay's offense. So I'm okay with this pick right here, even though I would have preferred a receiver.
I think that's the case. I mean, they really have to believe in Christian Watson being that alpha wide receiver in order not to take a wide receiver here in the first round, or they have to believe in that depth of the wide receiver position throughout the draft. I'm not quite there myself as far as depth is concerned. So then you got to look at Romeo Doubs there as that second wide receiver. And if you feel that he is a bona fide wide receiver too, then Michael Mayer makes sense here because you know what? He's not going to block. That is not in his MO. Michael Mayer is not a blocking tight end. He's a pass catching tight end there. Major. The Washington Commanders then select at 116 Dalton Kincaid. How are we feeling about a nice little security blanket? We had a security blanket for Jordan Love in Green Bay. Now we're getting a security blanket to go along with Jahan Dotson, Curtis Samuel, Terry McLaurin for Sam Howell potentially in 2023.
I like Sam, don't get me wrong, but that's a lot of talent for Sam. Maybe that's one of those trade partners for the 49ers you were talking about earlier to get Trey up in there. But to Dalton, I feel opposite of what Tara just said. I'd much rather have a baby Gronk over here. To me, the tight end position, I don't know. He's not that fast. He's not that athletic. He's not I don't know. He's not a lot of things, but he does get open. I give him that. He's a very smart player. He knows how to read zones, and he gets open. If you going man-to-man with him, you're going to win every single time because he's just not athletic. I don't see anything in him that I don't know what everyone else is seeing, but, I'm just a regular guy, I guess. But, I like him. I don't think Washington should do this. They need to go maybe defense. That offense, like I said, is stacked. You don't really need a tight end that much, but I'd rather have what's the other dude name? Mayer. I'd rather have him. He reminds me more of Grunk than, he's slow too. It's nothing exciting about the tight end position right now.
Sorry, Greg
Go
Barfield
ahead.
gave this selection. He said the Commanders haven't had a serviceable tight end in years, basically since Jordan Reed. Now, Logan Thomas did have that one season there.
I'm
Now,
gonna say
Kincaid
Logan's
would give
ball
one-
though.
Sorry, well, Logan Thomas is old. He's past his prime there. That Phoenix is left. It's not rising anymore. Now, Kincaid, he would give Washington an extremely talented young piece to give Sam Howell or their eventual quarterback of the future.
Tell me
So-
why is he? What's the talent? What is everyone saying that I'm missing? Like
Okay,
I
so
watched
Major,
film and everything.
What's literally the most important thing for a pass catcher to do outside of catching the ball?
Get open.
And what did you say Kincaid does?
That's in college though. Like you are there's defensive linemen running like 4.3s now. Like you're not. This is not the same game. I doubt. He's not. He's just big and he's slow and he's fat and just a slow guy.
Well, I will agree to disagree with you here because I think Kincaid is incredibly talented. I think he can be the first tight end off the board in this draft class. He's going to give Washington another pass catch and create another mismatch in this offense. You've already got McLaren there. You've already got Samuel. You've already got Jahan Dotson. These guys are all mismatch creators. Now you get Kincaid out there on a linebacker or a safety, size or speed. Make your choice here because Kincaid's going to have that advantage in this offense. Not to mention they're going to pound the rock there.
Quick question: like who's this comp? Like who are they comping him to?
Oh, I'm going to think he's going to be. I bet he kind of comes across as a Travis Kelce coming out of Cincinnati. Not Travis Kelce now, but Tara's got something.
What?
She's freaking out.
What?
Because you said Travis Kelce and you hit the whole point that I wanted. This is now Eric Bieniemy's offense. This is like, just keep that in mind that this is now Eric Bieniemy's offense. So Dalton Kincaid does fit what Eric Bieniemy is more than likely going to run. So yes, they do need a tight end.
You tell me what part of Kelce.
If he is in fact going to, I'm not saying he's Travis Kelce, but you need to get close to it. If he is in fact going to try and run this offense that he'll probably be bringing over from Andy Reid, you need a pass catching athletic tight end in there. That's what they have to have. So I love this pick for them. And even traditionally, Washington has, the only reason Logan Thomas succeeded is because Washington kept their tight end, one tight end on the field constantly. So just from a theoretical standpoint, even with Ron Rivera, they want to have a tight end be a focal point of that offense. So yeah, I like this. Love this.
You guys keep saying athletic, and I'm like, where?
That's his benefit. He's not a blocker. He's not.
That's what I'm saying. I think he's so overrated because he's not a good blocker. He's not fast. He's not like athletic. He's not like, he doesn't have good feet. He runs to the open spot. That's it.
That kind of helps. I mean, if you can catch the ball and you can run to the open spot, that's going to help you a lot of ways. Now, Travis Kelce, you got to remember, he was not a first-round selection. He wasn't even a second-round selection. Coming out of Cincinnati, he was a third-round draft selection. So, I mean, we're not saying that he's
tight end, though. He's super athletic. That dude is athletic, man.
Sneaky athletic, not like a dominating, like out there Kyle Pitts type. Let's keep that in mind.
He's
like he didn't come out with like the Kyle Pitts kind of like, oh my god.
He's a WWE or F. I'm just showing my age, but he's a WWE type of like athletic. He's not. Yeah, he's way Kincaid. I'm telling y'all. Remember when I said this? I'm always right. Just remember I said
regardless,
this.
They have to have a tight end. So they've got to get one. They got to get someone. They're not going to
wrong, Major. I think you're wrong. That being said,
I don't think
your
they'll go
time's
past
now
the
up.
second round.
Oh, my time is up.
Your time is up. We're moving on to pick number 120 there, where Jake Tribby selected for the Seattle Seahawks, Jordan Addison out of USC. Tara, what are your thoughts?
I love this. I know some people have some concerns about Jordan Addison. He is a smaller receiver. And when we're looking at the combine, we would have liked to see a little bit more. We would have liked to see some more speed out of him. I know some people try to, comp him as, not comp him to Devonta Smith, because that's the problem, is that they say, similar in terms of sizing, but maybe doesn't live up to the athleticism and the speed that Devonta Smith has. So that's the problem with him and why he's being knocked. But you can't argue with the level of production and performance that he had, and you can't argue with the technique. You talked about, JSN and his route running. Jordan Addison is a seamless route runner, perfection.
Right.
He's, small slot receiver, but can play on the outside as well. He showcased this. So when you're looking at him, and especially from a fantasy perspective, not just in Dynasty, but in redraft too, I'll put on my redraft Viper hat. He has all the combination of skill sets where, provided the right landing spot, he's going to be able to make an immediate impact because there's nothing he really has to work on. He just has to exist and bring the same exact thing that he brought. So yeah, I love Jordan Addison as a prospect. I don't love it to Seattle. I've heard a lot of people say this. It's not that I dislike Seattle making this pick. That's a fine pick for them. I dislike it because we might not get the level of impact that we immediately want for him because it's essentially waiting for Tyler Lockett to ride out into the sunset. So, and he doesn't look like he's at that point. So I get it. It makes sense. It's fantastic for their offense, but I don't love it from a fantasy perspective for us. Not a knock to Addison. I just want to be greedy and get him to a place where he can be a big star.
Yeah.
I love that you mentioned Tyler Lockett because when I look at Jordan Addison, I see a lot of Tyler Lockett and what he's able to do. And I think that's why this makes a lot of sense for the Seattle Seahawks to get a guy that can play both inside and outside. And I talk about this. There's three different ways to win at the line of scrimmage there as a wide receiver in the National Football League. Either with speed, where you just blow by guys, with size, where you're an athletic freak and just have that big advantage, or with your route running abilities. And that's where Addison has a difference because, Tara, as you mentioned, he is probably the most fine-tuned route runner in this draft, and that's including Jackson Smith and Jigba. And for the most part, we know that he's able to run from the inside, run from the outside. They can move him around formations. We saw him catch some jet sweeps. It's not like he's slow. Now, at his size, we would have liked a more explosive burst profile coming out of the draft, a little bit better of a relative athletic scoring than what he had. I mean, but we're talking about 4.49 speed. It's still pretty fast. I mean, that's still not a bad speed for what
good.
Yeah, we're not talking. I mean, we would have liked to see him faster because of his size, right? Under 6 feet, under 185 pounds. We're expecting a guy that can absolutely burn. That's not the case in all these situations, and he wins other ways. So, again, I like this because it seems like, hey, we've got another Tyler Lockett. Now Tyler Lockett can move on, like Tara mentioned, maybe sooner rather than later. And Seattle, they need wide receivers because after Lockett and Metcalf, the next man up is D. Eskridge. Now, as we move along here in this draft, I look at some teams that kind of passed up on some opportunities here. The Chargers, they went with defense here. They could use some offensive playmakers. The Baltimore Ravens could also use a wide receiver. They went with a cornerback because they did just sign Odell Beckham Jr., which means Minnesota is up, who also could use a cornerback, but also needs a wide receiver. And that means falling into their laps at pick 23 is Zay Flowers. Now, I look at this class, and there are 4 wide receivers that I think you could argue could be the first wide receiver selected off the board. I think you can make a case for JSN. I think you can make a case for Jordan Addison. I think you can make a case for Zay Flowers as well. So I think there's multiple wide receivers here that you could all take and go, you know what? I can see a team taking that wide receiver, Quentin Johnson being the 4th, by the way. That could be the first wide receiver taken, depending on what team wants to move up, who feels strongly about who, because these receivers all win different ways and fit different schemes. There's not that top alpha wide receiver that we've seen in past years. There's 4 very good wide receivers, Jackson Smith and Jigba probably being the best of that bunch. But again, that is subjective to whoever's watching the film, whoever's looking at that. So with Zay Flowers, we've heard good things about the whole process. We've seen him coming at the combine, absolutely ripped, ready to go. And John Hansen basically said, we're looking at a Vikings team that has moved on from Adam Thielen. And now they're looking at KJ Osborne as their wide receiver 2. And you know who their wide receiver 3 is right now? Jalen Reagor. Jalen Reagor is the 3rd option in the passing game. 4th option, whatever. TJ Hawkinson there as well. But behind Justin Jefferson, the wide receiver room is not exactly screaming talent with Osborne. Say what you want. We love Osborne on this show. He could be a wide receiver too, but we're looking for talent here. And John Hansen said the Vikings, they still have a championship caliber offense, and they need to add a dynamic wide receiver. So I'll bet the team views 2023 as one last chance to make a Super Bowl run under Kirk Cousins. And then it's time to rebuild, perhaps with Hendon Hooker, who they could select in the second round as an option out there too. So he does kind of give an idea that this is maybe the last hurrah there for Kirk Cousins in Minnesota. So let's give him his pieces. Dalvin Cook possibly gone to create some cap space. Adam Thielen already gone as a cap casualty. Let's bring in some offensive young players. Let's give Kirk Cousins the best cast that we can and see what we can make a run out of it. So I don't hate this. I mean, there's other options I would have liked maybe Minnesota to look at, but wide receiver is definitely a position of need moving forward because I don't think KJ Osborne and Jalen Reagor are exactly those dynamic playmakers that scare off defensive coordinators when they come down to making game plans. If you already have Jefferson, you already have Hawkinson to worry about. If you add a third dynamic playmaker, that can make this offense almost whatever you want to call it. You can't even guard them, unguardable, so to speak, right? I mean, too many good pieces in place, and maybe Kirk Cousins, maybe a younger wide receiver there, can give him a little bit, make it more spry. Maybe he can stay up a little bit longer and play those primetime games a little bit better. No, probably not. Yeah, it's worth a shot. Now, as we move on our board here, Tara, I'm going to skip Major because I'm going to give Major the next one. But we talked about those 4 wide receivers, and Quentin Johnson is one of those guys, and the New York Giants are going to select him at 125. Do we like this move for the Giants? Because Giants wide receiver room doesn't exactly, again, like other wide receiver rooms, doesn't exactly scare defensive coordinators right now.
Sorry for those watching on YouTube. I yawned. I did not yawn at the pick or anything that Matt was saying.
I was just about to get you with that. I was just going to get you with that.
I'm just sleepy. Yeah, I think so. I'm not sure that Quentin Johnson is going to be here because I agree that the Vikings are going to take a wide receiver. I do kind of think that Quentin Johnson will be that guy. Zay Flowers can fit there. He can play on the outside, and KJ Osborne can play on the outside too. So they've got, a lot of flexibility in terms of how they can, move people around. But I feel like Quentin Johnston kind of fits better in terms of replacing what they've lost in Adam Thielen. He is a bit more of a risk, which is why maybe for the New York Giants, you don't want to go that route since you've, been fairly risky with your wide receivers. You might want to go a little steadier because, with Quentin Johnston, we've got the concerns with him, physically, you've got everything that you should be there. You're a, athletic freak, big guy, but you don't really play like it. You don't play like a big man. So it makes it a little strange. Now, maybe they can, coach him up and get him there because he has the potential. I think that's why you see him as, a guy that kind of profiled as the potential wide receiver 1 for a lot of the season because he has such a high level of upside with all the capabilities that he has within himself. He just has to put it together. So I don't know if I love this for the Giants because I would like them to probably take a safer pick at wide receiver since they've been a little bit risky in terms of who they have signed and, drafted in the past. So near recent future, by the way, not dipping all the way back. But I don't mind this. They need to continue stacking wide receivers. They, signed a wide variety of sometimey guys to kind of pad out that entire wide receiver room.
Shout out to Paris Campbell.
Yeah.
Hater. She's such a hater.
Again, there's sometimey guys that you should not be taking in any draft by any means necessary. Yeah, they need to get a wide receiver that's kind of a focal point of this offense because we've got Wan'Dale Robinson, but he's a little on the slimmer side, smaller side. So a big-bodied receiver to kind of make the focal point in that offense would do well.
I love myself a big body wide receiver. And if you're looking for a return of investment in Daniel Jones, you better start surrounding him with some offensive weapons, some pass catchers here. So I can see why the Giants would make this move. Now, what I can't see is, actually, I can. Let me be honest. I can see Jerry Jones getting his fingerprints all over this next pick because it's Jerry Jones, and he loves whatever the shiniest thing is. And Tom Broley selects for the Dallas Cowboys at pick number 26 out of the University of Texas, running back Bijan Robinson. Major, what do you got?
Love the player. Hate the team. Like being a 49er fan growing up, that might have to do a little part with that, but with him, he's just one of those players. Like this was like 30 years ago, he would be the number 1 pick in the draft. That's just how it used to go back in the day. But this is like one of those once in every like 10-year type of talent players right here. And for him to fall to 26, especially to Dallas, I don't really like it because Pollard looked like he may be that guy out there. It looked like he wants to be the guy out there. I know they're concerned about his size and everything, but he's going to eat up a lot of Bijan's opportunities there if he lands there. And but I get it. Texas, he's in there with Dallas and all that stuff. I get it. It's a cute pick. Jerry Jones usually does something cute, like something weird. He's going to pick an Alabama player. He's going to pick like a Texas player, or pick like the dog in the corner that has fleas. He's that type of dude. He does the cute picks because that's why they're the number one franchise in the world, because he understands the politics of it. But I don't know. I do not want this to happen. I'm so upset that we put this out. And who said this one? Who put this? Who made this pick?
This is our good friend Tom Brawley making this pick.
Brawley, bro, you are true.
Tony Pollard there.
He put
Tony
this in the
Pollard's only on a
atmosphere. Why'd you
franchise
do that?
tag right now.
Man, tell Brawley, why did he put this in the atmosphere? That's his fault.
Well,
because it's
I'll
going to
put this
happen
out
now.
here.
It's going to happen.
Mr. Texas stays in the Lone Star State and replaces 2016 first-round pick Ezekiel Elliott as the face of this backfield. Bijan is the best running back prospect in recent years after averaging 150.7 scrimmage yards and 1.59 touchdowns per game in his final 2 seasons at Texas. Jerry can't resist that.
Brawley, please stop drinking when you're writing your go ahead, T.
So first of all, I agree with you, Major, that I do not think he falls to this spot. When you're looking just general feel in terms of the level of prospect he is at the position. And I understand you don't want to draft running backs high, but even Matt has talked about this, draft class being a little bit disappointing, which would make the elite jump up. So I think he'll be gone before this. So I'm with you on that one.
Yeah.
But if he fell, I don't mind this. I hate it for Pollard because I do want him to be that dude, but this would actually be a very productive landing spot for Bijan. Dallas was one of the run heaviest teams in the league, top right outside the top 5. And when you're looking at that in a team that Mike McCarthy has said, despite the fact that they were aggressive on the ground, he wanted to be more aggressive. It wasn't enough for him. He wanted to be more aggressive on the ground. There's going to be plenty of volume for Bijan. So if this was the place, I don't mind this. I like it from a fantasy perspective, a team that just wants to literally run the ball constantly. So I'm fine with it.
You changed my mind. That well said. You changed my mind. I just don't want Dallas. I do not want Dallas to. I just don't want
That's
this
just
to
a
happen.
49er fan in you right there.
I think so, because she made so much sense, but I was like, ugh.
Well, and it does. It makes a lot of sense. You're going to get a cheaper Bijan Robinson, a younger Bijan Robinson, than what you're paying Tony Pollard right now. Tony's getting his franchise tag at about $10 million right now. You're not going to pay that to Bijan Robinson, who's obviously going to be more productive. That being said, we've seen this Dallas Cowboys offense with Ezekiel Elliott and with Tony Pollard. They're both working as a 1A and 1B type system, and they both were able to find varying levels of success. So I don't think you're going to see a huge drop in Pollard's production. On his potential, maybe, but I don't think his production drops off too much with Bijan Robinson being there. Now, finally, the last offensive player selected in the first round of the draft, the Buffalo Bills at 127, select Jalen Hyatt out of Tennessee. Now, I've had him kind of penciled in as a guy sliding into that first round. There are some options out there for some teams looking for a speedster. Now, that's the reason why Hyatt kind of comes in here. And why does this make sense for the Buffalo Bills? Because you have Stephon Diggs already in there. Stephon Diggs is not a burner. He can run, but he's not a burner. Gabriel Davis is like the invisible man. He disappears. He comes and goes. He's been there. He makes some big plays from time to time. He stretches out some defenses, but the inconsistency has to be driving the Buffalo Bills crazy. And guess what? Davis is in the final year of his contract. So there's no guarantee that the Buffalo Bills pick it up. If they're not seeing a return of their investment, then they may go with another young wide receiver and just kind of replace them. So I can see how this gives the Bills an elite playmaker type wide receiver guy, a guy who could stretch out defenses, which in turn opens up things underneath for a guy like Stephon Diggs, where he's going to absolutely destroy defenses all year long, and maybe even a third wide receiver that they bring in maybe a little bit later. So I don't hate this pick for the Buffalo Bills. It's probably not where I'm going to go with it, but I can see where Chris went with this thing here, because he doesn't have to be that complete receiver off the get-go, because you've got Stephon Diggs. You've got some kind of a mentorship program already there. He can do what he does best and flat out beat defenders and run by them. So that all being said, that is the first round. Those are the top offensive players going.
Before you go to the next one, I'm sorry, you got to do that part again. I don't like your take on Gabe Davis, and it was going to like drive me crazy. I had to say it. It's not his fault. It's the quarterback's fault. He can only be as consistent as a quarterback.
It's Josh Allen's fault that Gabriel Davis can't get open on what defenders that are 3 inches, 4 inches, 5 inches smaller than him.
So listen, because he can't throw the ball to the place where it needs to be thrown. If he throws to anyone else, he looks like the old Allen. When he throws to one of the best receivers in the game to ever do it, almost like routes and all that stuff, you have one of the best receivers. He can make Poo-Poo look like I don't know, Ferrari
like
or whatever.
Cousins.
So that's telling me a dude
funny.
who's had one good game his entire career, and it's Josh Allen's fault that he's not any good.
Name another person that Josh Allen makes good. Name one.
Cole Beasley caught like 80 passes and had 1,000 yards. Cole Beasley.
Cole Beasley is one of those slots, like Scott, what do you call it, slot gods? He's one of those guys. He's out there. He knows how to play that position. He knows how to get wide open. He can only throw to the wide open.
So you're telling me Gabriel Davis can't get open, is what you're saying?
No,
is that what I'm saying?
That's why he has those big
Stephon Diggs can get open. You said Cole Beasley can get open, and yet Gabriel Davis can't get the ball because he can't get open.
No, because he's the third option. It's hard to play a third option or even a second option when you have one of the best receivers that ever do it. It's like you got to get your points after like Kobe Bryant or Michael Jordan, like get all their points. Like it's a hard thing to do to play like second fiddle, but Allen doesn't make it easy for him.
I'm gonna have to agree to disagree once again for like the third or fourth time this show with you there, Major.
I know you need to stop doing that. Just disagree then, because you're not making sense right now.
I mean, Tara
they will be taking a wide receiver. They will be taking a wide receiver.
And why would you waste a pick? Why would you waste a pick on a receiver who's fast? It's snow in Buffalo. You can't run. There's never been a time when you can run fast in Buffalo except for Thurman Thomas. Like, why are we doing this?
I thought Shady McCoy did a pretty good job running in the snow in Buffalo.
Shady is not fast. Shady's a shifty.
You can't run fast, but you can't shift. That's no shift.
Hey, you can't hit what you can't catch. It's that simple. Whether it's being shifty or flat out flying, I'll tell you what, we can all catch Gabriel Davis. Apparently, the only thing that can't catch is Gabriel Davis himself. That being said, let's move on to the second round here of the draft.
I hate when you
got some good players. Some good players here. So, Major, I'm going to go off your list here. We got Jahmyr Gibbs. I'm going to give you the running backs here because I'm going to give you an opportunity to redeem yourself here in the next 7 minutes or so.
Yeah.
Jahmyr Gibbs, Zach Charbonnet, my man Tajay Spears, and Rashawn Johnson are some of the next backs up behind Bijan Robinson that weren't selected in the first round. Do you see any excellent fits for any of these running backs? And where would you like to see it for fantasy? Is there a back that you're like, you know what? I want Gibbs in Miami. That's what I want right here. That's my fantasy matchup.
I mean, that's kind of like where I've been placing all the running backs. Other than that, I don't really see any other place. Maybe Atlanta, but I'm telling you, this running back market for the teams it sucks because you got all these veterans out there, and then you have all these really good young guys coming in, and you don't have enough teams to really like facilitate this. So with Gibbs, I would love to see him in Miami. To me, he's another what's his name, Kamara. Like that's a perfect comp. I don't even like comping people, but that one to me is like they're twins. The dude is just an athletic player, shifty, fast, can catch the ball. Size might be an issue, but I think the NFL is a little more spread out. So like the players are not really, the size doesn't really matter as much. You can run through the middle of the field just because it's so spread out now. So I'm not too worried about his size. I'm just running down the running backs, or are you going to throw them to me?
Yeah, no, just keep talking about these running backs here because there's a few of them
Yeah.
here that make a lot of sense. One team that I'm looking at here right now is Arizona. They've got James Conner already kind of in place. He's getting a little bit older. So could the Cardinals maybe look at a big back like Rashawn Johnson,
Exactly.
or do they go with a pass catcher like Tajay Sharps here? What do you see fitting there for Arizona?
I kind of like them going with Zach Charbonnet. To me, he fits that. Remember, Connor had that little run in Arizona. He had that what 2 or 3 years when he was like one of those guys. I think Zach is pretty much he may be a little more athletic, Connor. So like I'm
It's a
go
good comp.
ahead. Yeah, so I'm with I'm you know, I like Zach a lot. Tajay is probably my Ramondre of this draft. I love this guy, man. Like he is a real running back. I always talk about the art of the running game and all that stuff. He is a running back. The dude does everything right. I wish he was just a little bit faster, not even faster, a little more explosive, I should say. I wish he had a little more fast twitch, but other than that, you can't get him to the ground. The dude's like a pinball. He's bouncing off of people all over the place. And then my other favorite like guy is this dude that no one's talking about because he's on a team with like this generational talent. But Rashawn Johnson, did I say it right? Rashawn, whatever.
Rashawn.
You can call him whatever you want. I do.
Yeah, I mean you get everybody's name wrong, but yeah, Rashawn Johnson is like the dude is big, the dude is fast, the dude can catch, the dude can make you miss. Like to me, I don't understand why he's not being named as like the second running back in his draft. But yeah, like I said, so much talent, but there's not a I can't really place any of these guys because wherever I put them, they're all going to be like the second back for the most part. Like you said, Miami, Arizona, Atlanta, maybe Minnesota. They may need a running back, so maybe Zach might be a good fit for them if they get rid of what's his name?
Well, I'll put it this way, Major. If Bijan Robinson was to go to the Dallas Cowboys there in this mock draft, what team would he go to?
See, even I don't know because even in our mock draft, I put him with the Chargers just because I thought it was fun because I really don't see him. Honestly, if Miami gets a running back, Miami's going to win a championship. They have everything there. If the quarterback can stay healthy, that is. But everything is in place there. The defense is there. They fixed everything. Only position that's kind of lacking, no disrespect to the running backs they have there because they're all ballers. But like Bijan is one of those generational guys. I mean, Saquon was like the last one, and I think he's going to be one of those guys. So, yeah, man, I don't know. I mean, you tell me. I mean, you're good at that part. I'm not good at putting them on the teams.
Well, a couple of interesting spots for me could be the LA Rams, who definitely need a second running back there behind Cam Akers.
Again, it'd be
The Seattle Seahawks behind Kenneth Walker. But one spot that no one's really talking about is the Cincinnati Bengals and what's going on with Joe Mixon and whether they want to move on as a cap casualty in that aspect as well. No, Tara, some of these wide receivers, Marvin Mims, love him, by the way. He's basically Jordan Addison, except with some burst to him. Josh Downs, Cedric Tillman, and A.T. Perry. Are there any fits that you'd like to see any of these wide receivers here this season that would make them maybe their stock rise for fantasy?
Oh man. I think we talked earlier about Pittsburgh and them not taking a first round wide receiver and kind of taking a day or second or third round wide receiver. And I feel like maybe Cedric Tillman could be an interesting option for them. Mike Tomlin, he loves to take those receivers that he feels like he can develop, bring up a little bit. You don't always have to make that aggressive first round, top of the notch talent. Cedric Tillman is a very stable wide receiver. He's got size. He's talented. He, was, a strong producer at Tennessee. So I think kind of when you look at him, I feel like that's somebody that could kind of fit into that system where he gets with the right team, with the right coach that can provide him that opportunity and build him up because the capabilities and size and everything are there. He's got what you're looking for. Just needs the opportunity.
I agree with that. I love myself some Marvin Mims, so I think he could find himself in a nice situation here. Pittsburgh would be another great spot for him, too. As we said, that wide receiver 3 position is wide open there. Sorry, Allen Robinson. And for me, I'm looking at the quarterback position. I'm looking at Hendon Hooker here. We talked about Minnesota possibly being an option, but what about the Las Vegas Raiders there at pick number 37 to start the second round? Jimmy Garoppolo, he's already there. Honestly, I want the Raiders to trade for Trey Lance and have him and Garoppolo battle up for the quarterback 1 spot there in Vegas, just because I love the chaos. But Hendon Hooker makes a lot of sense there early in the second round for the Raiders, possibly even trading back in with a team like the Eagles who pick at number 30. And then in the third round, Darnell Washington. You want unicorns, you want freaks. How about the Detroit Lions, who, after trading TJ Hawkinson, could probably use a tight end? I mean, Brock Wright is literally their number one tight end, or Zylstra possibly. I mean, Wright and Zylstra? No. That's just wrong altogether. So give me Agent Zero, a tight end wearing number 0 like he wore in Georgia. That is swag level 100 right there. Lions have picked number 81 in the third round.
Man.
Oh, I got swag. Maybe I'll go. I got swag. Oh, I lost my earpiece. That was not a good sign.
Matt, swag down.
Swag
Yeah,
down.
see, swag.
You swagged too much. Just lost it all.
Yeah, that's too much swag. Yeah.
Too much swag here. But yeah, Darnell Washington to the Detroit Lions in the third round, I think would be an excellent fantasy move, especially because there's nothing really there in Detroit. And he'd have, I mean, we're already giving them Anthony Richardson as their quarterback of the future. So if you've got yourself Jamison Williams, you've got yourself a Monterey St. Brown, and then you add a tight end like Darnell Washington with that athletic profile. I mean, this Detroit Lions team already with DeAndre Swift, with David Montgomery. By the way, David Montgomery, top 12 running back in 2023. This is a team that has all the makings.
Okay.
They're already one of the highest scoring offenses in the league. You give them some more pieces, look out in 2023 and beyond. That being said, this show is now beyond 1 hour long. We want to thank our special guests there, fantasypoints.com, and that staff for giving us this mock draft to work on. And remember, the Vipercast is proudly presented by the Dynasty Vipers and our friends at Fantasy Points. Each and every week, we got all kinds of things going on here heading in the draft. Behind the Grind coming at you next week with Michael F. Florio. That's right, the Mike Florio, who doesn't have me blocked on Twitter, is coming on our show. With that being said, we'll see you next week.